Hi, I'm Andy. Thanks for watching. Today we're going to talk about how to test a defrost sensor for your GE side-by-side. Now these defrost sensors, they're actually used in various forms throughout your refrigerator. It's the same type sensor that's going to sense how cold your refrigerator section is, your freezer temperature, and also your defrost temperature. They send a response back to the control board. I'm going to tell you how to test these from the control board so you actually don't have to cut them out of your refrigerator to do the test. Let's get started. What you'll need to perform the test is a multimeter and a 1/4-inch nut driver to remove this panel. To remove the panel, remove the 2 top bolts and the 1 bottom bolt. The common symptoms that you'll find with failed sensors is it's either too warm or too cold in the refrigerator or the freezer section, or in the defrost sensor scenario, your fridge may not be going through a full defrost cycle. So either inconsistent defrost cycles or it's just not defrosting at all. Let's take a look. So before you get started, make sure that your refrigerator is unplugged from the wall. We're performing these tests on our refrigerator with no power. So the plug that we're going to be dealing with is J1. And if you look on the green section of the board, you can actually see listed just to the left of the plug that you're working on. So how this test is done, take your black lead and count from the left. Should have a, and that's where your black lead will go. And we can test 3 sensors while we're here. The fresh food sensor, that's your refrigerator section. The freezer temperature sensor, and also your defrost sensor. So it measures the temperature on the evaporator coil. So from the left, this will be your fresh food section. Mine measures out at 9.8. I'm room temperature right now. Pretty warm garage. And if you go one more to the right, 221, so roughly the same temperature. This is my freezer section. And one more to the right, now we're 0.76, and this is our evaporator temperature. So inside the freezer, and then 7 on the evaporator, roughly the same temperature on both. So that's how you test those 3. I'll take you to the bench now and show you a quick bench test of how these thermistors work and the response that it sends back to the control board. I'm also going to talk about the ways that you can install these. Now you can do it the easy way or the right way. The easy way is just to strip the wires, put a wire nut on it, and call it done. But that wire nut's going to live in a pretty harsh environment with lots of condensation. So what'll happen is corrosion buildup impacts the sensor read that it's going to send back to the control board. So you'll see why that's important. And let's take a look. All right, now that you know how to test these thermistors at the control board, it's a really nice thing to know because now you don't have to cut the thermistor out of the refrigerator just to do that test. You can put your leads on the control board and you know what resistance this thermistor is reading. So what that means, it's a thermal resistor, thermistor, okay? So it's a resistor that changes its resistance based on temperature. Now in your tech sheet, they're going to give you some guidelines to go by. I'll also put this up on the screen. It gives you a little bit more detail as far as reference points, but they give us 3 reference points. 1 7 degrees Fahrenheit, That means we should read out at 0.92 ohms, 92K ohms. And then at 7 degrees, you should be about K ohms. So this just gives you a reference point to go by. I know that it's 75 degrees in my garage right now. So what you'll do is set your meter to take one lead and touch it to one side of the thermistor. Take your other lead and touch it to the other side. So at 77 degrees, we should be getting 9.2. We're pretty close here on our meter. 1.8. Now if we're going to see this resistance climb, and it's going to climb to roughly K ohms. So let's see how it does. So here you can see it starting to slow down a little bit, and it puts us in the ballpark of that K ohms that we were talking about. So that's how you test one of these thermistors. It's a resistor that has variable resistance based on temperature. And then that resistance is what the control board uses to make its decisions on when to go into defrost and for how long, or when to run the compressor and for how long, when to run the fans. You get the idea. So if one of these thermistors is way out of spec, or if it's open, if you did your test and you got this kind of reading, you clamped it and you're getting, that thermistor for sure has failed. You should be getting some. But with the same test, you're wanting to see if it's way out of spec as well. But if we were in fact at 4.9 something, you know that, well, that's 7 degrees, not for 37. So you could say that, hey, that thermistor has failed. That's way out of spec, and that would need to be replaced. There's how you test them. Now, as I mentioned, when it comes time to install one of these, there's an easy way and there's a right way. What I mean by that is the quickest, easiest way to install one of these things is to strip the wires back. I like to strip off about 1/2 inch. So I strip off about 1/2 inch. These would be the wires coming from your refrigerator or your freezer. You've snipped off your old sensor and now you need to install your new one. Well, you'd take the wires, twist them together, and throw on a wire tie and call it done. You do both sides. Quick and easy and cheap, right? So now you have your new sensor installed and away you go. Problem is, this sensor lives in an extremely harsh environment. When the defrost heater comes on, it may say 100 degrees. When it's in a freeze cycle, it may say -15 degrees. But also, all that causes condensation. And that condensation ends up inside your wire nut that you just put on here. Causes corrosion, which causes bad connections. And this sensor is doing its job, but the control board is not getting the sensor's response. So it may not go into defrost, it may give wrong temperatures, it'll just do wacky stuff. You've got the Apollo 13 scenario happening inside this wire nut, and you can see where that's a bad thing. So how I like to do it is take a little bit more time, do it the right way, because this is not a job you want to do twice. It's enough of a hassle that you don't want to tear this thing apart again. I like to solder these in place. What you'll need a soldering iron. Mine's been heating up for about 10 minutes. You'll need some shrink tubing. Once you do the solder, you want to protect that from the elements. Go ahead and slide those onto the wires from your refrigerator. So they're there once you get everything soldered up. And you'll need some solder. For movie magic, I'm going to use a extra set of hands here. And if you've never soldered before, it's really not complex. What you do is And there it is. That's how you test and replace a defrost sensor on a GE side-by-side refrigerator. I hope that helped. Thanks for watching. If you have not already done so, please be sure to hit subscribe and a thumbs up. It helps a lot.